Thank you, Chairman Weingard and members of the committee. I'm Michelle Vetterkind, President and CEO of the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association, representing more than 400 radio and television stations in Wisconsin, which employ more than 5,000 Wisconsinites. The WBA is extra proud to say that over 95% of all of the radio and TV stations licensed to Wisconsin are indeed Wisconsin Broadcasters Association members. We appreciate this opportunity to discuss Senate Bill 50, the bill relating to the use of body cameras on law enforcement officers. I want to thank Senators Testin and Taylor for their leadership on the Legislative Study Committee that generated this bill. Today, I'd like to introduce Ben Hart. Ben is the news director at WISN-TV in Milwaukee. He sat on the Legislative Study Committee that produced this bill. His background and experience have made him an excellent resource on the issues of body cameras as it relates to media access. He is extremely well respected among his broadcast peers, and we're grateful for his service on this important matter. Ben.
Welcome, Ben. Thank you, Chairman. I really want to, again, respect you guys for taking time to really take this task seriously. I wrote a little something, and I'm really excited that we're so on the same page. We all agree that this is a good bill. Say what you see. It's a pretty simple concept, and saying exactly what is the basis of what journalists are trying to do all over the world. In the past, people only had a handful of sources to get their news. It was newspapers, television, and radio. The traditional press generally worked hard to get the story right because we have skin in the game. We have to deliver the facts objectively and fairly, and if we get the irrefutable truth, the public could generally feel comfortable to trust the press. With the advent of the internet, information sources have multiplied fast, much faster than any of us could have expected or predicted. With more sources of information comes the risk for more noise and less clarity about what is true and what is opinion. Fact is the most important aim for news broadcasters. But in this new age, millions of people are finding out what they know from places like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, before any journalist has a chance to present what is truth. Local TV news teams have to move faster than ever to try to keep up and sometimes correct the messages that are coming from independent tweets, posts, and blogs. Journalists consider it a calling. It's our job to make sure that the public has a consistent place to find real, dependable, and irrefutable facts. These days, irrefutable is hard to come by. Luckily, Wisconsin has a proud tradition of transparency. Today, I want to encourage you to take an important step in furthering that tradition. In the past decade, the people of Wisconsin have asked law enforcement to help eliminate some of the gray area surrounding interactions between the police and the public that they serve. They asked for body cameras to help the public understand those interactions, not just when there's a controversy, but also when there isn't any controversy. While there is never a perfect answer, we believe that the transparency that these body cameras provide can be the quickest path to find and report irrefutable facts. As the broadcast media, that's our aim. We want to provide truth, community awareness, and a sober, fact-based society. To that end, pictures are worth 1,000 words. The civil rights movement was once centered on the images of Emmett Till and the March on Selma, where some Americans saw the unedited truth with their own eyes for the first time. A few years ago in Milwaukee, uninformed citizens burned down a neighborhood in response to what they thought was an act of police brutality. The death of Seville Smith was a tragedy, but it was almost 2 years later when police released the actual body cam video in a courtroom, and in the video you saw Smith running on foot armed with a handgun, and at the time that officer shot him. Let's be honest, it's never a good situation when an officer has to draw a gun. Most people agree it may have helped spare millions of dollars worth of damage if the information was transparent as soon as possible. The point I'm trying to make is when people feel informed, it can help make tough situations more palatable. As a member of the Wisconsin media, we implore you to keep that in mind. The bill you're considering today is one built from compromise. I was part of the Legislative Study Committee led by Senator Testin and Representative Taylor. It was exciting in this current political environment to see both sides be as nimble, as accommodating to the opposing points of view as they were. The process of creating this bill was full of bipartisanship. The leaders for both parties explained how practical measures could help serve our citizens of Wisconsin for years to come. As a member of the media, our emphasis in this process was to remind legislators how transparency is a tenet of the Constitution. We hope the spirit of this new body camera legislation is a chance to let people judge for themselves the complex work of our law enforcement officers. We're living in an era where facts matter more than ever. As members of the media, we are responsible to keep information flowing to our communities with as little opinion or assumption as possible. We all know that the state of Wisconsin is at a point where we need to address the privacy implications that come with the modern and developing technology. We understand the challenges this technology presents for some smaller departments. With the bill on the table, we're ready to address Wisconsin's long tradition of transparency and fuse that with the standards of where the citizens of our state can expect access. Never before has a police officer crossed so many lines of privacy with a camera in tow. We agree with the spirit of the bill, and we worked for months alongside law enforcement leaders, hand in hand, as we heard their concerns and they heard ours. This bill sets reasonable expectations for law enforcement to address privacy, reasonably protect investigations, and give the access to the public. I'd like to thank the senators and representatives who have taken this task so seriously, and they've been very responsible in realizing the precedent that we will set here. Ultimately, our idea is that we should stay as transparent as we can be for the good of the public. I'd like to thank you, Senator Weingart, and this committee for holding a hearing on this bill, and I'd like to thank Senator Testin, Representative Chris Taylor for their leadership of that legislative study committee. We think this bill is a good compromise to move forward into a law.